Is school choice on the horizon? It's December 30th, 2024, and these are your headlines. Continuing our year in review, while Texas officials said they would prioritize passing school choice in 2023, efforts to accomplish the goal flopped. After a successful election for school choice candidates, Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick doubled down on their pledge to move the needle on school choice this year. He said, talking about Lieutenant Governor Patrick, that since 2015, the Senate has passed school choice 5 times. It died in a Republican-controlled House each time. That's unacceptable and inexcusable. Went on to say, with an expanded Republican majority in the Texas House, there's no reason Texas students should be left behind. Well, this November, State Representative Briscoe Cain filed school choice legislation that would allow state funds to follow students to the educational institutions that best meet their needs. School choice, not the only educational reform being proposed. Another one by the Grassroots parental rights group Texas Education 911, at least that they've been advocating for, is the creation of an office of an inspector general for education. One version of the proposal would create an office of the inspector general at the Texas Education Agency to investigate complaints made by parents of children enrolled in public schools, although the legislation's not quite up to par yet for what Texas Education 911 is seeking. It was a big year for primary elections in Texas, as between the March primary elections and the May runoff elections, you had 15 incumbents, 15 incumbent members being unseated, in many cases by conservative challengers. 9 were victorious in the March primary election, an additional 6 won during the primary runoff election in May. This was unheard of. We have a ton of new freshmen coming in. So what motivated this big shift in the primary wave that took out so many incumbents? Well, school choice, of course, we just talked about, was a big factor. The fact that Governor Greg Abbott was out there campaigning for many of these challengers made a difference. The impeachment of Attorney General Ken Paxton, that also played a big role. Attorney General Ken Paxton getting involved in many of these races. But I would say beyond those two issues, very broadly speaking, the culture in the House has become a major issue on the campaign trail. As you had conservative challengers like Mitch Little, Shelley Luther, Andy Hopper, many of these other people coming in, challenging the Democrat-focused culture that has allowed the Texas House to kill conservative priorities for so many years. And that led to a major shift this year in the primary elections. They're not sworn in yet, though. The action will begin on January 14th.
America is at a crossroads. Now, more than ever, Texas must step up and lead the country. We don't have time to mess around. The only way to save America is with a strong Texas. You and I know this, but so do the enemies of life and liberty. Therefore, you and I have no choice but to stand up and fight. I'm Sarah Gonzalez, and to the enemies of liberty, I say, come and take it.
Over the course of the last year, Texas Scorecard has closely monitored Chinese interference in Texas on multiple fronts, including purchasing state land, the gambling industry, and the state's power grid. Now, speaking of land, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Chinese investors have acquired nearly 400,000 acres of land in the United States, much of which is located in Texas. Consequently, one of the Republican Party of Texas's legislative priorities for the upcoming session is to ban the sale of Texas land to hostile countries like China. This echoes the opinions of Texans across the state who have decried statewide Chinese influence. A recent poll by Texans for Fiscal Responsibility revealed that 76% of those polled said that the Texas legislature ought to ban the sale of state land to China. China has also posed risks to Texas's electrical grid during this past year. The country, which is among the nations capable of shutting down power in the United States via an EMP, has already penetrated the state's grid. Former U.S. Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe has warned that China is both an adversary and a competitor. According to Ratcliffe, China is currently more of an adversary than it is a competitor, when it should be the other way around. China reportedly supports U.S. utilization of so-called green energy, non-renewable energy. Why? Well, due to the fact that it results in America becoming reliant on Chinese production. One way this happens can be seen through the fact that the U.S. purchases materials for wind and solar energy from China. And meanwhile, in China, they're building a new coal power plant every couple weeks. For more of today's stories, go to TexasScorecard.com.